want to talk very briefly about the effects that your physical and mental state uh, has on your ability to metabolize food, or why you're retaining fluid and retaining fat, spiritual purposes behind obesity or being overweight. There's some people who have a hard time, or they have a trouble spot where fat deposits, where their weight ends up, staying around, and hanging. Some people carry the weight very well, and some people, they don't. But all in all, there is definitely a spiritual reason for some people's obesity, if not all, but for some. And I'm going to get right into it. So one thing that people seem to disregard is your ancestry. So if your ancestors previously have had battles with food scarcity, have had children starve to death, or have starved to death themselves, or whatever the case may be, then there has been a longing for food, a longing and an appreciation for nutrients, that then you find it being passed through the family over generations, where food is used to show love, is used to show how you care for someone. Food brings the family even together for the most part. So, I think that if you have had some of these issues in your ancestry, then your body remembers that, because, as you know, your DNA is passed to you. So there is some genetic memory. So therefore, because you've had ancestors that struggled with food scarcity, you are now holding on to certain nutrients and holding on to fat, because there's a fear that perhaps in the future you won't have access to that food. Your genes and your biology is set up to remember some of those traumas that your ancestor has faced, and what they long for the generations after them. Now, this goes for like certain parts of the body depositing fat. It runs in the family. Large hips, large butts, things like that is typical for African American people. But what I'm talking about is the excess fat, like you actually holding on to it. And then you find it that in your family, you guys carry, you know, your weight specifically. They know that this is not just genes alone. There's a spirituality aspect to why your body retains fat and water and things like that in the areas that they hold them. Some people they say their guts or big stomachs or whatever runs in the family, whatever the case may be. If that's how it is, then understand that regardless of where you're retaining the fat, know that there may have been some food scarcity or some starvation or something like that in your ancestry, and your ancestors definitely wanted the future generations to have, the ability to survive and become better equipped when there is issues with food. Another reason why you may have issues with your weight is you hold on to things, or you don't deal with issues. So you find it that um, you may feel as though you struggle with loneliness. You have certain issues that you can't let go or won't let go. And then on top of that, you may have issues with, speaking up for yourself or saying no, things like that. So all of this plays out not only mentally and spiritually, it actually affects your physical body. So in your vulnerable state, your body, like your brain, in your mind, you're vulnerable. Your spirit, you feel vulnerable and unprotected. This can cause you to retain weight, because although your mind and your soul is saying, I need protection, your body is hearing these things and feels these things. So your body does what it needs to do to protect itself. And as we know, fat is used to protect and it's used for fuel and all this other stuff too. But um you begin to become larger in size, right? Your body becomes more durable for uh, physical strength or physical pain. So you basically are shaping yourself to be ready to defend or ready to protect, ready to endure. And I think that that's definitely something that a lot of us um, have trouble with, the feeling of vulnerability. And it does play out on our physical bodies. Building your confidence in your protection spiritually and physically would definitely probably resolve some of your weight issues. If you have an issue, if your affliction is protection, the soul knows when there's a lapse in that. It may be something that happened in your childhood or something that continues to happen to you in your adulthood spiritually. So your spirit knows and your body follows. So maybe get help in finding a way to protect yourself spiritually. And this may help with your weight. Now, if you struggle with your weight due to ancestral purposes or reasons spiritually, what you need to do is you first of all you have to um, change some of the things that you may pray about, especially if it has something to do with monetary purposes, because that is definitely money and food goes hand in hand. So your ancestors hearing that you're worried about finances, stressed over jobs, and things like that, you'll find that even in your times of stress, you will retain a lot more weight and a lot more fluid. That's one of the signs that it is, that you have this type of, spiritual weight gain. Is when you're under stress, you gain weight. And if you holding on to excess weight because you have a hard time forgiving, you have a hard time healing, you have a hard time letting go, even pains, even if you don't hold a grudge against someone, you have a hard time not thinking about it, not reliving some of those traumas. You'll find yourself holding on to a lot of excess weight because, again, it goes back to as far as like protection is concerned. If you aren't releasing emotionally, your body will hold on physically. So, one way of getting past that so that you can maintain your health and maintain your weight would be things like therapy, journaling, and art. Things that will help move some of that energy and some of your feelings out from you and onto something else, and to help you and work with some of your trauma and also build your coping mechanisms, so that you can deal and not hold it all in. Another thing I notice with people that have poor coping mechanisms, and that's their reasons for spiritual like weight gain, is that they have a lot of pride and they don't necessarily ask for help. They put on a very big smile and they endure all by themselves. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter if you have to pay someone to hear you, which is like a therapist. You need to be open about how you feel and what you are enduring. If you have friends, don't feel like you can't reach out to them or talk to them. If you can't do that, then they're not your friends to begin with. But don't paint yourself that a picture of perfection when on the inside you're like literally crumbling and falling apart. So these are little things that can help. These are reasons why you may have spiritual weight gain. And I will be doing more videos on spiritual afflictions and how they show up in your life. Weight is just one of many things that definitely reveal that it's not just always physical or things aren't physically going well, but there's some traumas and some healing needs to be done on a spiritual level. Now, these reasons definitely do exclude your diet and the fact that they put so much sugar in so many food products and how our food lacks a lot of nutrients, which causes us to overeat, even when we do eat healthily and choose different things that have high fat concentration and things like that. This is excluding purposes beyond that, okay? I wanted to give spiritual reasons outside of the physical world and the physical explanations. Although they do matter, there's more to us than physical. And that is pretty much why I made this video.